Thank you for staying with Sunrise. Now, the National Environment and Planning Agency, NEPA, announces the start of the 2023 game bird shooting season, which opens on the 19th of August 2023 and goes up to the 24th of August 2023. Now, Ricardo Miller, the coordinator of Fauna in the Ecosystems Management branch, is here to tell us all about bird shooting season. Morning, Ricardo.
Good morning, Angelique.
We're happy to have you. Bird season, you know, as we commonly call this period. Why, first of all, is there a designated period of time? And forgive me if I'm asking the obvious for somebody who's at NEPA, but why is there a designated period of time for game bird shooting in Jamaica?
Okay. First, I would like to make a small correction.
All right.
The hunting season is from the 19th of August to the 24th of September. That's right.
I was going to say, then just give them 1 week to shoot the bird, but you're right.
You're
August
forgiven.
19 to September 24, 2023. Forgive me for all of the bird shooters who do so them chest and say, and you know, forgive me. It goes up to September 24.
Okay, so yes, they get 6 weekends of hunting. And the reason this is because we're trying to properly manage a hunting season. Game birds are a finite resource, right? So we have to be careful that we don't deplete the population. So each year, NEPA actually embarks on a study between the months of February to June to look at the game bird population. And that is actually the main period where the birds are breeding. So we look at the intensity of the breeding season and so forth. And what we want to do is ensure that the hunting activities is as far away from that breeding season as possible. And that is why it is slated down in August. And we manage it by limiting the number of weekends they're allowed to shoot. We limit the number of birds they're allowed to take. And of course, there's only a designated few types of birds, actually only 4 species of birds that they're allowed to hunt.
All right, well, tell us about those species.
Okay.
Let me see if I know one of them. We're still shooting, all right, but we don't want to say one, and then it means that I know people who were hunting birds that were not allowed. But let me take a guess, but it's not me, no, it's just a guess, Sunrise.
Yeah, all right.
We still can shoot ball plate?
Yes.
Oh,
okay. So ball plate.
So ball plate, and that's the proper NEPA name for the bird, ball plate?
No, that's actually a local name. That's only used in Jamaica. Oh. The official English name, proper name for that bird is the white-crowned pigeon, because it has a white head.
Right. I've heard. When I see the notices, I usually see that one and ball plate in brackets.
In brackets, that's right.
So the white-crowned pigeon or ball plate, that's one.
That's one. The next one is the white-winged dove. Okay. And we just shorten it to say white-wing.
All right.
The next one is the Zenaida dove.
All right.
Some say Zenaida.
Okay.
The common name, the local name for that one is pea dove.
Oh!
They call it a pea dove.
All right.
And it's mostly on the ground walking around.
So we call it ground dove too?
Ground dove is ground dove, but the ground dove is
a different one
bird.
that we call
it. It's a different bird, even smaller, and wouldn't make a good game bird.
Oh, okay, got you.
And then bird number 4 is called the mourning dove, and some people call it the long-tailed pea dove. It looks like the pea dove about the same size, but it has a longer tail. So that's how local names go.
So 4 species are permitted, so you cannot hunt any other one in this season. It would be an offense?
It would be an offense this season or any other season, because under the Wildlife Protection Act, those 4 are designated as game birds.
Yes.
And then each year you'll have an order that designates the start and end of a hunting season for those game birds.
As you talk about an order and how NEPA has been making sure to regulate hunting, when you go out to hunt, there are particular numbers of birds that each person is allowed to shoot. Right. Tell us about the restrictions in terms of the number of game birds that you can shoot per hunt.
Okay, so there are several restrictions. The number of game birds is actually one. The first one is actually the times. You can only hunt from sunrise to 9 a.m. on a Saturday and from 2:30 in the afternoon to sunset on the Saturday. So there's a little break in the midday. You go, cool out. And then on Sundays, there is only a morning shoot from sunrise until 9 a.m. Okay. So basically you have 3 sessions for the weekend.
Of each weekend.
Now, the number of birds per session is limited to 20. So the hunters can get 20 of those 4 birds.
So when you say per session, not for each hunter, but for each group, or
No, for each hunter.
Okay,
so
for
each hunter can get 20 in the morning on a Saturday, 20 in the afternoon on a Saturday, and 20 again in the morning on a Sunday. However, that bird that you remembered, what was it again?
the ball plate,
The ball plate.
the white crown pigeon.
That's right. You can only have 15 of those.
Oh, we restrict the ball plate.
Per session, per hunting session, only 15.
The
So
other ones go up to 20.
go up to 20. So you can have 20 white wing or 20 of any mix of the
Long
other 3.
tail, white wing.
Long tail P-dove.
P-dove, Lord Jesus. Sunrisers are learning.
But you can only have 15 white crown pigeon, but you can complete your bag with 5 of the others.
Okay, understood.
Make it to 20.
And because I guess the ball plate is a little bit more protected, their numbers are a little bit lower, or it's just
There are 2 things. One, it's the larger of the 4 birds, so it's more sought after. You know, people tend to want the bigger things, right? And
Got you.
Right.
It's more. One gives you more bang.
Exactly.
Literally more bang for you.
And the next thing is, and on a global basis, this bird is actually listed as threatened.
Oh.
Across its global range, which extends to the Keys of Florida,
yes.
The Bahamas, Cuba, and many parts of the Caribbean. But in Jamaica, we have a really, really strong population. Oh. But to recognize that international status, we decided to have a reduced bag limit.
Are there designated places or parishes or districts where hunting game is high? Do we have specific designated areas, or the hunters just go to where they know these birds are in abundance?
That's it. They do their scouting beforehand, and they want where are the birds exactly. So they lease lands from the National Land Agency and places like that, in deep rural areas, and they prepare themselves months in advance in anticipation of the hunting season. So there's not many restrictions, many designated areas per se, but there are restrictions as to where you cannot hunt.
Oh, where are
so
those
what we
places?
do, we have under the Wildlife Protection Act,
Yes.
there are 17 designated game reserves.
So you cannot go and shoot anything in there, so
within the game reserves. And some of these areas are places that we know a lot of breeding activity occurs for these birds, so we want to keep hunters away from that. There are other reasons why we would want, there are other sensitive species that some hunters might not be so nice and want to not hunt them. We say, okay, we don't want any hunting in that, like, for example, the West Indian whistling duck, a really large duck that we're trying to protect. So we try to keep hunters out of certain wetlands where we know those birds are.
Gotcha.
So besides the 17 designated game reserves, there is also the Blue and John Crow Mountains National Park, which is a really vast area. It's the entire John Crow Mountains and most of the Blue Mountains. No hunting is allowed there. Oh. And finally, there is forest reserves managed by the Forestry Department, which are, there are lots of forest reserves. There are large numbers of them. But they're really, most of them are remote. Most of them are small plots. And we don't generally get any attempt to even hunt in some of those areas. I
know my community in South Manchester, each year would see these men from out of town and some women, and bird shooting season starts. The young boys in the community prepare, because I don't know if you know, but when these gentlemen who've been preparing and getting their gear, they shoot, and then the job of the little boys and some of the little girls in the community is to run, go find the bird and bring it back to the camp. So it's a game bird shooting is a really interesting part of Jamaican culture, and a part of the childhood of many persons in very rural areas. And let's not forget that the slingshot. I grew up with my uncles and my cousins shooting bird in game season with their slingshot, the accuracy, and they knew the time of year and participated too. So people can still do that, right? It's not, game bird shooting is not just for the official people. I don't know anybody that uses a slingshot. What? Me? Who? Slingshot?
Well, under the Wildlife Protection Act, the game bird hunting season is a license process.
Mighty warrior.
So the hunters have to acquire a hunting license. Oh. And you actually have to have a shotgun to apply for a hunting license. But we do know that, youngsters in the rural areas grew up,
I don't know any of those
with slingshots and stuff. And we do community work, and we try to discourage that type of activity.
Maybe they'll shoot other things that they're not supposed to, and they don't understand the restrictions.
But you touch on a very important part, and which is the the bigger impact of hunting on the rural communities. And a few years ago, the National Environmental Planning Agency, NEPA, commissioned a study to look at the social impact of hunting, especially in these rural areas. And what we found was that it really contributed a lot to these communities. I talked about the preparation before the season. I mean, it's not the hunters themselves going there to prepare.
Absolutely
they have people in those communities preparing the areas, clearing certain lands, seeding fields. The hotels, the little hotels, the guest rooms.
Absolutely, the villas.
The little villas getting a lot of spin-off. The restaurants, the bird boys, as they're called, or field assistants, as we officially call them, who go and pick up the birds. And a lot of times you realize that this actually coincides with the restart of school.
I was just about to say the back to school is like the last activity before you're back in school September.
Right, so they do contribute to these communities. Where hunters are organized into gun clubs, for example, they would officially adopt a school or, help with the back to school initiative. So it's really good.
Well, Ricardo Miller, we want to thank you for joining us this morning to remind us and to inform aficionados and professionals, hunters overall, that our bird season here in Jamaica begins August 19 and goes up to September 24, 2023, and that you know the rules, so follow the rules to make sure that we will be able to have this tradition for years to come. Thank you so much for joining us, Ricardo.
Thank you, Angelique.
All right, Sunrisers, stay with us. We'll be back after these messages.